Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. If you would like to support this channel, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. And now, let's start with the first story. It's called Lunch Break Overtime. At my previous job, my manager was the definition of a micromanager. We had an hour for lunch, but the break room was small, so people usually staggered their lunch breaks. It was an unspoken rule that as long as you didn't take more than an hour and your work didn't suffer, no one really cared when you took your lunch. That was until our new manager, let's call him Dave, stepped in. Dave decided that he needed to control when everyone took their lunch breaks. He created a strict schedule, assigning each person a specific lunch hour. My assigned time was right in the middle of my most productive part of the day, which was super frustrating. I decided to follow the new lunch schedule, but I also decided to take full advantage of my rights as an employee. Our company policy stated that any work done during our lunch break was considered overtime and needed to be compensated. So I started to accidentally schedule meetings, calls and tasks during my lunch break, making sure to document every minute of work I did. Then, at the end of the week, I submitted a detailed overtime report to Dave, showing him all the extra work I did during my lunch hour. Dave was furious, but he couldn't deny my overtime request without violating company policy. After a few weeks of paying me extra for work that I would have gladly done during my regular hours, Dave scrapped his strict lunch break schedule and let us go back to our old system. The next story is called Just Ship It. My partner worked at a large company, processing outgoing equipment returns. The company used carrier-grade telecom equipment. Occasionally, a card in the equipment went bad. Many of these cards were $100,000 or more. The vendor kept a set of spares on site, so malfunctioning equipment could be repaired quickly. Her job was to ship the bad card back. They had a 5-day return time. After that, there was a restocking fee of 10% of the card's retail value. There were 2 shipment methods, and each had several expensive insurance options. The boss micromanaged his budget and wanted to select the method and insurance for each shipment. One day she stuck her head in his office and told him she had a card to return. Apparently he was having a difficult day because he told her to just freaking ship it. So she did. She selected the more expensive shipper and did not specify any insurance. The karma? This was one of the only shipments in her time with the company that got lost. The shipping company accepted it, billed the company for shipping, and the card was never heard from again. The shipper's contract with the company limited their liability to a low amount, so they were out a few $1,000s. The boss's budget took a hit for the replacement cost of the card, but the vendor was nice enough to waive the restocking fee. She was not blamed, since there was no standard policy requiring insurance, and the boss said to just ship it. The third story is called Company Hierarchy. I work as a mechanic in a sewage treatment plant. It's a very laid-back job. In fact, 3 out of 8 hours were spent not working. The hierarchy in our plant is quite complicated. The most important thing is that as a part of a mechanical department, our only supervisor on site is our master. Both the plant manager and the plant master are not our supervisors. Yet they, as well as other workers, asked us to carry out some jobs for them, which we gladly agreed to do, despite most of them being out of our duty range. You know, welding racks back together, installing a new faucet, etc. Most of the time we weren't doing anything else anyway, but sometimes we were preoccupied with our own tasks. But still, the plant master always told us that his tasks were more important and to just leave what we were doing for some other day. Due to this, many of our old tasks were left for another day, which because of constant requests were left sitting for months. Still, it was always his job that had priority. We had a tense situation with the plant master. He is best buddies with the manager, and he is usually blaming all the shortcomings of his team on us. Stuff like something not being cleaned, stuff that's not a mechanical failure, stuff that's simply not important enough, or stuff that's beyond our competencies and should be taken care of by a specialist company. He also had this very annoying habit of rummaging through our tools, taking parts and using our machinery without asking. It's very annoying, but whatever. It's important to keep a good relationship at work. But then he dropped the bomb. He had a list of all our old tasks that were left unfinished. The list wasn't that long, about 8 things, 3 of which were outside of our competencies. And then he said that the manager and CEO will be waiting in the conference room to give us a lecture and to take away our bonuses. The meeting went very roughly. It started with the CEO saying, "You can say goodbye to your bonus this month." He then proceeded to give us a lecture about the importance of our tasks. Then he kept blabbering about us threatening our master, plant master being the only supposed witness, etc., etc. When the CEO was talking about possible solutions, the plant master made a giant mistake. He proposed adhering to the company structure and proper workflow. We didn't want to oppose it, since we knew what that means. We talked this over with our master. Now, every time the plant manager wants something to be done, we reply with, "We don't take jobs in the corridors. We have our jobs to do. Sorry. We cannot afford to leave what we are doing. We have it planned for today." Or, "Does our master know about this? We cannot do anything without him ordering it to be done. By now, no one has been to our workshop for 4 weeks. No extra jobs. No side jobs. Nothing. Only 2 tasks a day, which usually take 30 minutes each with our team of 5. And it's all by the book. We definitely respect the company structure and have a proper workflow, focusing on our tasks." The last story is called Blaming HR. In my mid-20s, I worked for a multinational accounting firm. I have always had a really firm policy for standing up when something doesn't sound right, irrelevant whether it puts me in an awkward position. This story is how I maliciously complied and in turn made my director learn a lesson I hope she won't forget. We'll call her Karen. When she joined the team, we all liked her. She made great changes and we got on well with her. But the moment she was promoted to director and had direct reporting to the partner, she flipped, became a completely different person and made our life hell. Previously, she spent her career heading up call centers, which was really evident in her management style. For some reason, she made it her mission to cut costs in the team and go under budget. This affected everything. From telling us we didn't have a stationary budget for pants and had to take from other team stores to only allowing our 1 drink, 1 course policy on team dinner events. This was a huge company, and other teams around us would go for fancy all expenses paid social events, so we felt pretty put out. So cost cutting also extended to things like no overtime approvals unless way in advance. That didn't last long, as we were understaffed, so quickly emergencies weren't dealt with. And she was hiring school leavers instead of graduates, as they were cheaper, despite the work needing more experience. Her favorite saying to everything was, "It's policy," or blaming HR or higher-ups, saying whatever new thing, even if a new irrelevant spreadsheet would come from HR. Honestly, the amount of time HR spent on our little team in a company with over 20,000 UK employees was astounding. Then came the day she booked an all-day training session from some external company to show us how to use our new system. She went on about it for weeks. Was super excited that she had brought in this new system. The training was intense and most of all, expensive. So what would normally be covered over a few days was crammed into 1 full day. They were paid hourly. She sent an email advising how we are expected to attend. It will go through the whole day and lunch would be provided. But it will be our working lunch, so training would also be through lunch. Needless to say, the thought of sitting in a stuffy room for 8 hours without a lunch break wasn't appealing. I asked for an exception, as I really relied on going outside for the hour at lunch for a break. I was in the midst of high anxiety at the time, and my breaks got me through. She said it's policy that we would be expected to change our workday around to fit training, and there is no policy that requires her to allow me to go out. If I had an issue, I should check the HR manual. I think until now, this statement usually worked for her, as no one really ever checked. I went one better. I went to HR. Using the wording of, "for my mental health and well-being," HR replied. And, of course, disagreed, as UK law mandates training as work, and an 8-hour day requires at least 1 hour break. which I am allowed to choose what I do with. They CC'd Karen. Karen backed down, but verbally told me it was an exception for me and to not share with the rest of the team. Of course, I didn't comply. She was breaking the law, so I showed the email chain to everyone as they were complaining about the same thing. We, as a team, came up with a little plan. Sandwiches were delivered. Budget sandwiches, of course, from the supermarket down the road, instead of our slightly more expensive internal catering team, who caters for this exact type of thing for our 10th floor building. I stood up and announced I was going on lunch and would be back in an hour. Cue the rest of the team, all 12, standing up after me. Karen goes, "Where are you all going?" To which someone replied, "I understand that HR said we were allowed to leave the room for the hour for lunch." The look on her face. She knew she was stuck. She couldn't say anything. We left her in there alone with the 2 trainers who seemed to guess something was up. I've never felt more satisfied in my life. We all had a good laugh about it outside. I think I even did a happy dance. She also knew she couldn't complain to me about it, as that would highlight her breaking the rules. I felt like I was walking on air all day. After this, there was much less blaming of HR, and generally she was a little skittish around me, because she knew I didn't take her crap and would call her out. A second training session had to be booked, since the training would never have worked in one day. There were lots of moans and groans about how expensive the extra training session was, of course. I left a couple of months afterward, and so did pretty much the rest of my team. We were replaced by school leavers, of course. I believe Karen still works there, but for a much smaller team. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what I do and want to support me, please subscribe and hit the like button. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.